I was so gone for like an hour. I was like, I can't go to work like this.
That's awesome. Hell yeah. that
Yeah, that
kicked
was
it. That kicked it real nice.
It did, yeah. I wasn't expecting to wake up with it.
If the gummies that I made, I'm not sure if I have a really high tolerance or I just made them conscious, like knowing that I was gonna give them to some friends. So I just kind of made them less potent because I eat 3, 4 of them. Like I eat one and I can feel it, but it takes like 3 or 4 of them to actually put me to where like I'll be knocked out.
Yeah, that's funny.
And then I add the like a sweet and sour, like the Skittles and stuff, the sugar. So it's like. So, uh, you got to go to the gym today?
I'm sorry?
You got to go to the gym today?
No, actually I went hiking yesterday.
There you go. Oh yeah. They can definitely stay active.
Is Hydro Bucket ready?
He is not in the chat yet, but in the meantime, shit, we'll just stay live.
Hey everybody.
Yeah,
Hi.
cheers. What up, Ken, Alicia, Root Nerds, Crimson, Growing Grind, Curly Greenleaf, Sly.
Hey
What
Mary. Hi Curly, Kiana, Crimson, Root Nerds. Hey.
Yeah.
No, we decided to go hiking yesterday.
You went hiking?
So, it was nice.
I went Saturday to go trim a piece 2 that just got chopped, which is a cross up Super Lemon Haze, and then the other one another Black Sunday. I feel like that one just keeps on getting more chocolate mint here. It just stands out. As soon as she's in the room, she just stands out versus everything else.
Very nice.
Definitely keep her in my book, you know. And I'm glad a friend shares the same. We admire it. Frankie's in the house.
Hey Frankies. Can keep up with everybody.
They're coming in fast. Chilling.
I'm gonna check real quick and see if he's made it. His link might not be working.
Uh-oh. Copy and paste it again.
I'll find it here in just a minute. Hey Rue. Hey Cece.
Yep. So that was a little art garden update,
Nice.
right?
Yeah. Very good. Well, we got some exciting news coming up. Are you able to load the flyer, the updated one? I sent it to you.
Let me see. You send it through email.
No, Instagram. I can text it as well. So while we're waiting, I'll update you guys. We got some super exciting news, which was pretty cool. But actually, the Grow Me Talk Getaway will be part of the Mocana Fest. 14 they're up to now. So we will actually be there. We'll be podcasting live as well as a handful of our fellow podcasters, which is pretty exciting. We've got Elle with Seeds of Harvest. I'm tongue-tied. I get too excited. And then we've got, let's see, Sly, AK Loco. We got him going live at the Mocana Fest. It's pretty exciting. We're going to roll out the red carpet for you guys. Any of you that can join, you'll be our special celebrity guest. So it should be pretty wild. I will definitely share a poster here tonight as soon as we're done. And we got some pretty cool updates for it. We got Crap Culture Chris will be there. And let's see, pretty much everybody's coming with spouses or, significant others, which is really cool because we'll kind of get to see everybody, their backbones and support, and just kind of all hang out together. It sounds really fun. I can't wait. And that's just an update, is June 12th through the 16th. The Mocana Fest, the Missouri Cannabis Festival, will be on the 14th. And that's at Mother Nature's Retreat, which is a big campground with beaches and cabins, camping, pretty much you name it. They've got a lot of stages there. They're set up. It's a really nice place. It's beautiful. So yeah, I'm excited.
The computer's going a little slow.
Yeah.
Come on.
I haven't heard from Hydro Bucket, so I'm not sure what's going. Hey, Frankies, I hope you make it. It will be awesome to see everybody there in person and get to hang out. There's so much to do in here. Oh my goodness, it's crazy. That was Fort Leonard Wood, wasn't it? If I remember correctly. I believe that's the nearest base to us.
Okay.
Crimson was talking about he hasn't been in Missouri since basic training. And I'm 90% sure he confirmed it was Fort Leonard. Yep. Fort Lost in the Woods. That's funny.
What's up, boss?
Hey,
Hey
how you doing?
Hi.
Happy Monday.
Yeah, happy Monday. Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
You sound great.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, sorry, I got confused with the Central. For some reason, I thought we did it at 7 last time, but I guess that's fine.
Oh, no
Sure.
worry. The time zone had me all off yesterday too. And then today, just the daylight saving.
Yeah, I forgot that it's daylight savings today.
Yeah, daylight savings. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
through
where we're gonna
everything
put
else.
this. It seems a little bit silly to me, but
Yeah.
okay. Oh, 1 second. I'm just gonna grab.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm gonna turn
There we
these
go.
alarms off. They keep going off.
Oops.
Okay, so it's not letting me post that.
Sorry.
Oh, the flyer. Don't worry about it. We'll load it afterwards.
Sure.
We were just talking about we have our Grow Me Talk Getaway, which is a vacation that we've got planned in June
Oh,
for
cool.
our home growers, breeders, you name it.
Yeah.
product specialist. But yeah, everybody pretty much coming to Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri
Cool.
from June 12th to 16th. It's open to anybody who would like to come. It's gonna be a blast. Pretty much just hang out and kind of get to know each other, get to experience a lot of the vacation tourist areas around here. And
Nice.
and Saturday is a Missouri Cannabis Festival, so we'll be part of that, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. I mean, getting together is the best, right?
Yeah.
Being with people, that's my favorite thing, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, this plant has definitely brought so many different individuals that I would never have thought we would gather up and chill, pretty much smoke sesh, a live smoke sesh when we're just hanging out and doing some stuff. So I'm definitely grateful for these adventures.
So, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and the Hydro Bucket, and introduce yourself a little?
Yeah, you know, I started growing. I've been growing for over 8 years now, and I got into growing. I mean, I've been a huge fan of cannabis my whole life. You know, I've always recognized it as a really useful, amazing plant. You know, I've never participated in the narrative that it's a drug.
Right.
You know, I've always thought that's just nonsense. But once legalization was announced here in Canada, I purchased the Cannabis Grow Bible, and I knew I wanted to grow indoors because it was going to be legal and I could grow my 4 plants. And so then I looked through all the different growing methods to decide what would be best for me. And really what I fell on was deep water culture, just because it's clean. You know, no soil has to come and go into my basement through my living room to this closet that I was going to grow in. It just checked a lot of boxes for me. So, you know, I studied up everything I could on deep water culture, and I started growing probably a little more than a year before legalization happened, because just with vegetables, I wanted to practice the growing method and get proficient at it. So then when it came to grow the plants, you know, the plants that I was actually wanting to grow, it would just change the plant. And that's exactly what I did. I grew peppers, cucumbers, tomatoes, everything that I could think of in deep water culture. I got really good at it. And then I started growing cannabis, and it just went off without a hitch, right? And of course, like anything, it takes a while. It's easy to do stuff, but often takes a little while to get good at it. I think I can agree with that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so that was it, you know, and then it was just a matter of, you know, I did the 5-gallon buckets, like, have always been everywhere, right? You just get your 5-gallon bucket and use it. And I found that to be limiting because you have no access to your nutrient solution. It's cheap, but it doesn't work really well, right? It's kind of clumsy. So of course I did the DIY recirculating system. I hooked up everything into a recirculating system, and I found that to be okay. And it worked, but I thought, I don't know, maybe there's another way. You know, we're just using 5-gallon buckets. And so then that's how we got onto the idea for the Hydro Bucket, and ever since, you know, that's what we've been doing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, it looks like a way cleaner method. When you started talking about having soil all over your house, yeah, I have that problem, especially because I like
Been there, done that, yeah.
I like to transplant wherever. I was like, hey, if I'm chilling right here, this is the destination today. I'll clean up after.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, I say that the best thing for any grower is to figure out what's going to grow well for you and what's the best way for you to grow in your area, right? Like, and if you're somewhere in Northern California, you probably shouldn't do deep water culture hydroponics. You should probably grow outside. You know, that would be the most normal thing to do, and you'd have great success. But if you're somewhere that, you know, you're going to grow indoors, for there's lots of reasons why you would choose indoor, then yeah, you know, you may want to check at you know, where is it going to be? How dirty is it going to be? What are you willing to do? You know, how far do you have to go to get nutrients or amenities for your soil or whatever it is, right? So and then especially when it comes to being in Canada and colder climates, that's where we really find a lot of deep water cultures, deep water culture growers.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it more of a budgetable style of growing?
Oh, what? Sorry.
Like, would you say it's a more budgetable style of growing? Like, because versus with soil, you have to buy your soils, your amendments, and if you like going living with like a living grow style, then you have to add all your live insects and all that good stuff, and your crop, and
Yeah.
so like what. My question is like, does it benefit in the long run to stick in DWC?
Really, I mean, there's a couple. For me, there's a couple big benefits. One is you can grow medialess, right? And that's cool. I mean, if you're getting clones or you are using seeds, you can use very small amounts of media, so you don't have a lot of costs, and you can have very quick turnovers. The second thing, because you don't have media, you don't really bring in all those pests into your grow, right? That the amount, like the only thing I've ever had in my garden in 8 years has been thrips, and they were just a very small infection that was easily dealt with once I identified it, and they just came from my house plant in my in my living room. So, but aside from that, those are the two big benefits, what I see. And another benefit that I really feel like deep water culture is it's very predictable. And I know a lot of people, they feel like it's maybe intimidating, but I really feel like it's quite easy once you get the hang of it, because you can identify all your variables, and then you can control your variables. And if you do that, I say it's a lot like baking a cake. If you put the right ingredients in and you get your temperature right, your cake's going to turn out. And if you don't, it's not. It's very simple. I mean, the best deep water growers I know are like chefs and like own restaurants, or I mean, they like it because they can be specific. They can control all the aspects of it. And I mean, of course, really fast rates of growth. It does grow a lot quicker because it just has, constantly has access to nutrient solution. You don't have to water your plants. The roots are always submerged in that nutrient solution. So for a lot of growers, that just removes one thing that they have to learn about watering, drybacks, overwatering, underwatering. I mean, none of it exists with deep water culture. You just simply replace your nutrient solution, monitor it and adjust it, replace it, monitor it and adjust it, right? I mean, you never have to water. So it can be quite nice, quite a nice way to grow.
How important does oxygen, I guess, factor into the system?
Definitely. You want to have oxygenated water, oxygenated nutrient solution, right? And that's really, there's a couple reasons there. But the main thing is to just, oxygenated water is healthy. It's going to combat any kind of, infections or things that are going to compromise it. Versus low water, that's where you can get all kinds of nasty stuff growing in your water, right? With low oxygen content. But it's very easy to keep your plants oxygenated, right? I mean, deep water culture has really been an extension from illegal grows, where you used to go to Home Depot and get your buckets, and then you'd go to the pet store to get your bubblers and your lines and your pump. And then now we have specific stuff. We don't have to go to the pet store. We don't have to go to Home Depot. You can get stuff made specifically for growing, and it works really well.
That's another thing that I did again, checking if I would just taking the time to just do a little bit more research and find the proper. By the time I got the hydrocloner, I had already made three different clone machines with little air stones and different lids. And it was just a fun project because, like you mentioned before, I was like just feeding the plants directly as soon as you take the cut and just it starts rooting right away.
Hmm.
One of the things that our good buddy Crimson has mentioned that was like you don't really necessarily have to apply the root gel. Just start feeding it the nutes that's already pretty much taken at a smaller dosing, and you could start seeing some of that rooting. And like I've seen it, I've done it with the hydrocloner. Like and like you mentioned, it grows really fast. So
Yeah, I really love hydroponics in general. I mean, deep water culture is
Mhm.
just one style of it, but yeah, I mean between aeroponics, deep water culture, ebb and flow, Dutch buckets, it doesn't really matter. It's really quite fascinating. All you have to do is get that nutrient solution to your roots regularly. The roots can, in the case of deep water culture, the roots they just stay in the nutrient solution the whole time. So I like that because that's for me that's a bit of a buffer, right? I love it that often once I have my garden dialed in, and I know that I can leave for 2-3 days. I don't even check my nutrient solution. If the plants look
Yeah.
healthy and the readings have been going well for multiple for multiple days, then I'll leave my nutrient solution for days at a time before I come back. Versus, stuff like aeroponic cloners, if your emitters plug off, then, you could technically, they're very efficient, but you could lose your plants if the pump doesn't turn on. Same as ebb and
Right.
flow. If your pump doesn't turn off or on for some reason, you're going to lose your plants, right? So that's that. I love deep water culture for that aspect, but just roots, hydroponics in general, I find amazing. I took the kids to Disney World a while back, and there was this one spot that was hydroponics, and in all different fashions. And one of the displays was some plants that had large roots, and they were on a track, and the track kind of went around like a sushi cart, like a sushi tray kind of thing. And every once in a while, they'd pass through these misters. And it would just mist the roots, and then it would stay dry for another loop, and then it'd come through and mist the roots again. And they were just showing all the fascinating ways that hydroponics can grow, and I mean, amazing to me.
That's pretty awesome.
Very nice.
That seems like a very educational day on Disneyland.
Yeah, no, it was in the Epcot Center, so they were like, all types of things for the futuristic world of tomorrow.
Green Shed Gardens asked, what temperature do you typically keep your water at with HydroGrow?
I mean, so ideally, you want your water to be cool, and this is why this relates to the oxygen question. The cooler your water is, the more dissolved oxygen it can hold, right? So the ideal temperature, really, if I was running a recirculating system or had the ability to do that, your ideal water is going to be somewhere from 64 Fahrenheit to 68, something like that would be perfect. But I don't do that. I just grow single site hydro buckets, and my temperature gets up to 72, 74 degrees Fahrenheit, sometimes a little warmer. And, they're fine. It's just you have to take a couple other precautions or measures when you are growing with temperatures that are a little bit warmer than ideal.
Yeah.
You mentioned taking other precautions. What would that be?
Certain things like you can wrap your individual buckets with insulative furnace wrap.
Mm.
So it's kind of like, it's like bubble wrap, but it's reflective. So you can wrap your buckets in those. You can put your air pump that's feeding the air into your air stone outside of your tent. So it's not just pumping hot air from the tent into that fluid. You can also then take, if you're really trying to combat those temperatures, you can do something. I've seen people have coolers and put their air pumps in the cooler and then replace ice into the cooler every day. And you're literally, you're chilling it with air, right? But then, you just have to make sure you insulate the bucket inside the tent, and now you're pumping it full of cold air. So those are some creative ways we were doing, and including, I saw Mr. Grow It. He was growing with some hydro buckets, and we were telling people, try frozen water bottles. They actually work. You'd be surprised how well they work. To just drop a frozen water bottle into the side reservoir of the hydro bucket, and you only have to do that twice a day, and that's enough to knock the temperatures down.
Damn.
And really get you in the zone and get you to harvest.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, what up, Macho?
Hey, Macho. Let's see if anybody's got any more questions over here. So where can they find you? Products?
Hydrobucket.com is where you can find us. That's our website, and we ship direct. We're also on Amazon. You can find us on Amazon.
Very cool.
And that works as well. We are in quite a few retailers throughout the US and Canada, but it seems a lot of people do the online thing these days. So that seems the majority of where our sales come from, our direct purchase right from our website. And of course we're on YouTube, we're on IG, we're on Facebook. Just always sharing as much as we can, and interacting with growers.
Sure.
How much
do you have any advice for newbies? Oops, sorry, Greenier.
No, not my fault. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, is there like any fluctuations when you start aerating your water, like your pH? Does it start throwing it off? Or?
I've heard people reference to that. That when you're aerating your water, it causes pH to fluctuate, and I'm not sure I really have. I don't think I've experienced that. I find pH does drift, and it's not a bad thing if it drifts. But like for me, my typical pH, what happens in my grow is typically when I start I mix my nutrient solution. I want my pH to stay as a hard rule between basically 5.5 to 6.5. I don't want it to ever go outside of that boundary, but I'll allow it to vary in that zone. But I'll typically call it 5.6 to 6.4, just in case my pH meter is out by a couple points, right? Just giving it a little bit of a buffer. So if we just leave it sit at that 5.6 to 6.4, the plants will be fine. They may get a little sad as they get closer to the outer ranges of that. But for the most part, they don't mind being varied, and they don't mind being adjusted every 2 to 3 days. You don't have to fuss over pH to have it at 5.9 always, always, always. It's just not a big deal. If you're getting big pH swings, it's usually an indication of a problem. But so typically what I'll do is I'll make my nutrient solution, and a lot of this varies on the nutrients that you're using and your tap water, because everyone's tap water is different. And depending on which nutrients we're using, some dissolve and interact with your tap water differently. So for me, I will mix my nutrient solution, and I'll mix it to 5.5. And then I know that within a day or two, that pH is going to rise up to about 6. And then on that day, I will adjust it a little bit and get it down to 5.8. I'll check it the next day. It's usually fairly stable. And then over the next week, it tends to rise slowly. But by the end of the week, it's maybe only 6.2, 6.3, and then I drop it down again. Throughout the course of the grow, I find that the pH likes to rise until about the second week of flower, the third week of flower, and then somewhere around mid-flower, the pH starts to drop. And then I'm just constantly keep adding pH up in order to manage the pH. But for the most part, yeah, if it's not doing dramatic swings, just let it float around and just adjust it one day just by a half a milliliter of up or down, and then give it a day and check it the next day, and just do it like that. One of the big things that I find with pH is if it's acting weird, most of the time it's my pH meter. The number one thing I'll do if I start seeing weird pH readings is I calibrate my meter, and that's usually what it is. But that's caught me a few times over the years.
Yeah. You're probably so dialed in, it's a meter like that.
Well, that's it. I mean, all these things, all these errors and challenges that you get, I mean, they make you into a good grower, right? I mean, I always, that's one of my biggest pieces of advice for new growers is never give up. If the plant's still alive, it's not dead. And if it's not dead, keep working at it, and you're going to learn something, right? Just get it to harvest, and you'll learn as you go. And then every mistake you make is a learning opportunity, and it takes a while to get good at it, but once you get good at it, you can't believe it's almost like cheating.
Yeah, because you could do a lot with just one feminized bean.
Absolutely.
Clones for years and years, and never pop another bean again.
Yeah, no, I mean that's it. In Canada here, we have a 4-plant limit. So you can grow 4 plants in 4 plant sites under a 4x4 tent. That would be the standard thing to do. But you could also grow 1 plant in a 4x4, and you could just scrog that whole plant into 1 canopy. And it's a really nice way to grow. And I mean, some of the benefits of this method, I mean, one is obviously your 4 plants are going to be 4 lights, and you're going to have 4, so you're going to have volume. But also when you produce a big canopy from 1 root mass, it drinks that fluid aggressively. So it's almost at the peak of flower, it's using everything in that single bucket. And so you don't have to worry about how warm your fluid is, because your fluid just disappears, and you're just giving it nice cold fluid every day, and it just drinks it again, right? So that's a nice way to grow.
Vixen mentioned earlier, is there any I guess advice that you would give to a beginner or somebody who's willing to try to start a new journey in their life?
For deep water culture hydroponics, I tell people, I mean, this is not necessarily for deep water culture. I tell everyone, buy them mostly the best equipment that you can get, right? I've started off with really cheap equipment, as cheap as it could go, and I slowly, as I knew growing was for me, and I would slowly upgrade and get better equipment as I go. And that's what I say is, like, buy the best stuff you can, and that's going to give you the best chance for success. But outside from that, it's a great time to learn how to grow. There you don't have to look very hard to find mountains and piles of videos and tutorials and forums, and I mean, you name it, right? It's very simple and very easy to just study and see what's out there and what other people are doing, and learn from their mistakes, and not necessarily yours, right? But
I don't know. I kind of took that challenge of wanting to cause as many mistakes to avoid them from later on in life, And one of those, like, I guess a motivator or influencer in that side would be ICANN. and he has grown from like in cups and plastic hose from that you would find it at Walmart, and growing with all Walmart nutrients and soil and stuff. So it's like it kind of got me to like want to try different things that would probably get me into sticky situations, and then see how I can get myself out of it. And then, like you said, get it all the way to harvest and see what it tastes like. And sometimes I felt like those were the ones that kind of tasted the best because I did a lot. I went over.
There's no doubt. I mean, it's all a learning experience, and I would catch myself doing interesting things along the way. You know, if I had leftover clones, I would just throw them in a cup and just put them in the corner of a tent and just see like how long they survive. Or, you know, if I had a big mother that it was time to get rid of, you know, just little things to learn from. Or, you know, another one that was a great learning experience. At some point as a deep water culture grower, you're going to get root rot. You know, you whether maybe you didn't clean your air stones properly at turnover, or, you know, you had something compromised, a piece of equipment somewhere. You know, maybe your pump turns off because you had a power outage for 2 days and you lose a plant or something. I mean, there's a lot of things that can potentially happen that could cause issues. And, you know, I found it was fun to play with plants that did have root rot. I mean, excluding autos, right? Because autos, once there's no coming back, right? You really gotta. I feel like photos are so much easier to grow with, because if it's alive, it's alive. That means it's not dead, and you can. I've had photos where didn't realize that it was my. It was an outbuilding that I was growing in, and I had a large cistern, and so I'd pump water from my house to the cistern, and then eventually that cistern, I didn't clean it in time, and it started to get compromised. So I was always adding, you know, a compromised fluid to my plants, and they were all getting root rot. But so I figured that out quickly. But through the process, I just found that when I got root rot, I would just trim out the slimy, gross roots, give them a bath in like peroxide water, put them back in the growing environment. They would pop off again. And then I got root rot again. I would trim those roots off again. They'd pop off again. I mean, it was just amazing that I just kept trimming roots really aggressively. And, you know, you have to, your roots and the upper portion of your plant have to match, right? They're work in conjunction, so you can't have a big leaves if you have small roots. So then I'd have to trim the top, and it was just this constant process of trimming and growing and trimming and growing until finally I just figured out what was wrong with my nutrient solution. I had removed enough rotten stuff from my roots, and the plants totally, I got them through veg. I got them into flower and harvest, and it was a fantastic crop. And I learned so much about managing root rot. So that's why I always say, like, grow it out. Always grow it out.
Okay.
Very nice.
Would be I guess like a funny experience when you first tried smoking cannabis?
A funny experience when I first started smoking. I mean, I started smoking quite a while ago, so.
Oh yeah.
yeah. I mean,
so you got enough stories to tell.
yeah. I guess the stories. So here's one good story. So I used to get my cannabis from, so before it was legal in Canada, there was places in BC, in British Columbia, that they had kind of like a medical program long before we had legalization. So they've always been pushing the boundaries. And it was cool. You know, my buddy lived out there, and he would go into the store, and, you know, there'd be 8 jars, and he'd take pictures of them, and he'd smell them, and then he'd send it to me and say, oh, you know, and then they got this for edibles and all this stuff. I'd be like, ooh, you know, send me a package. So he sent me a package. And he said, oh, I got some extra stuff in there for you. So I get my package in the mail, and I'm going through it, and I look, and he sent me these little capsules, little oil capsules. and I thought, oh, these are kind of neat. And I grabbed one and I squished it, and it crunched in my fingers. And I thought, well, I'm not going to waste this. You know, that would be a shame. So I just took it. It was 10 o'clock in the morning.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it was like a 100 milligram cap or something.
Oh boy.
Way more than I'm into. I had to cancel work for the day. I greened out on the floor in my living room. It was not fun. But I look back and it was pretty funny now.
Right? Yeah, it's an adventure right there. God.
It's
like,
I
didn't want to waste it. God damn.
I almost had something. So, well, last night I got some gummies at what was it? Friday night at 420 Bud birthday bash by Minefield here down at the lake. And I was like, I'm not usually a big gummy person or edible. I prefer just to smoke mine. And I thought last night I was like, I'm just gonna try one, and just relax and just kind of, watch some videos and whatnot before I go to bed. And I fell asleep and it didn't kick in. I woke up this morning on my third alarm going off. I slept clean through them. Barely woke up by this alarm. And I tell you, I was so lit for about an hour this morning. I was like, do I call in and just say I need a couple hours? Because I really was like, I was trying to get ready. I couldn't do my makeup or nothing. I'm surprised I don't have like Alice Cooper eyes and eyes ain't going down my face. And I was like, holy shit. That thing kicked in like way late, and then I woke up and I was just like, yeah, I was there, same as you were that day, and I was like, I don't know if I can function for a few hours, but by the time I showered and got ready, and was like, it was time to leave for work like an hour and a half later, I was like mellowed out. I was like, I'm fine now. But yeah, there was an hour there that was real sketchy.
Yeah.
And that was just this morning,
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, sometimes, the experienced cannabis users, sometimes it doesn't turn out. It's rare. But sometimes there's a couple bumps, and you just, you take them and you go along with it, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and edibles are a funny thing. Some people, I didn't believe it until I researched it, but some people can't get high on edibles. It's just their process in their body. They just they don't. I don't know if they lack a certain enzyme or a certain process, because we're all different. But there are some people that just cannot get. They can't get high on edibles, and then for me, it's the exact opposite. I can smoke and I can dab, all day, all night, and be fine. But if I take a 50 milligram edible, I mean, it's not enjoyable for me, right? That's just a funny thing. It just metabolizes different for all of us, right? So
yeah, it really this one did. So yeah.
I would definitely. My favorite thing to do whenever I go out, like knowing that I'm gonna go out, like how you went to Disneyland earlier. Like my thing to go to Six Flags, take a couple cereal bars or brownies, just ready to go. Right before I'm ready to go in, that's when I'm taking it. I had just finished smoking a blunt, so I'm already enhanced. Yeah. the brownie or whatever I'm gonna eat is just gonna fucking take me up to the whole nother level. And it really never like kicked in until I'm actually on top of the roller coaster, like just looking down and just like, holy shit! Oh fuck! And you just passed the day like that. And normally I carry a little backpack with a couple of them, so it's like, if I'm with buddies or whatever, we're just gonna have that same trip together.
Yeah, I mean, I find they're great. That I really got into more making my own edibles just because I just found like Joe Rogan has a good bit on one of his comedy specials, and he's just like, who's making these gummies? Some old hippie sitting there, and he's like, one scoop. He's like, oh, did I put another scoop in? Oh, I'll put another scoop in.
Shit.
And then you get this gummy bear, and you eat it, and they're like, you shouldn't have ate it. You should only eat the arm. You don't eat the whole thing. It's just like it's something, and that happened with us. I mean, I've been with my friends, and we got a brownie, and it was supposed to be whatever. and we ate the brownie, and we shouldn't have ate the brownie because it was I mean, we didn't golf really.
You were just supposed to eat the penguin arm, bro.
Exactly. Just like nibbles, man. I've had like, you know, inconsistency in edibles once other people make them, where, you know, I've had chocolates and I eat a chocolate and the whole chocolate's fine, and then one Christmas I decide to eat a quarter of the chocolate because I don't want to get too high, and I get so high that I couldn't cook Christmas dinner, and everyone had to sit around and wait for 2 hours until like I came out from my hiding spot. So, you know, there was just stuff like that. I just quit, and then I just make my own edibles from now on. But the legal market is pretty good about consistency. So if nothing else, that's good about legalization.
Yeah,
it's awesome, bro. You could just fucking make your own things and just on the go. Go. Be relaxed and not having to feel like you have to smoke and smell like you just took a fat ass hit.
yeah. No, that's it, right?
Yeah, not everybody appreciates that.
Well, I do like dabs for that reason too. Right. A lot of people, they really think that new people that don't dab, they go, "Oh, that's just too strong for me." And I'm like, well, it's not. I mean, it can be, but it's not really the intent. I mean, for me, it's quick. It's it doesn't smell. You know, it's a lot healthier for your lungs. You know, it's a different expression. There's all these things, and I mean, yeah, you sometimes it's tricky when you're supposed to take like you know, half a grain of rice worth, you know, for a dab, and you get a whole grain, and you know, you get a little higher than you meant to. I mean, you know, we run the risk sometimes, but for the most part, yeah, I mean, dabs and concentrates are a really nice way to be you know, to be low key with your consumption, right?
Yeah, like you mentioned before, it's really fast. Like you just load up your dab, fucking within 5 minutes, you're already gone.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean, I was a stay-at-home parent. I got 3 kids, and I was a stay-at-home parent with them for 10 years, and so I couldn't really go outside, and I didn't want to go outside and smoke a joint, then come back in and smell, and, you know, leave my baby crawling around the house, and, you know, all that stuff. When I could just step into my little garden room, I had a little exhaust fan, I could have a little dab, and I literally, like, I'm in and out in like 30 seconds, and I'm good, right? So yeah, so I love concentrates for that reason.
Very nice. I actually have yet to dab. I never have.
Oh,
we'll get there. Yeah.
You know, the way I look at dabs, I don't say they're better, but I mean, they're a unique expression of the plant. I mean, I'm all about hash water, like ice water hash, right? I like the solventless method, and the way I describe it to people is you're getting to experience the plants only how the grower gets to experience a certain expression, right? Like when we're in the as a grower and you're in the tent and you touch that plant on week 8 when it's ready to harvest and you smell it, and you just you know, you go, oh my God, I can't believe how good that smells. Sure, by the time we hang it, cut it, hang it, cure it, dry it, get it in a bag, grind it up and smoke it, you know, 2 months later, sure, it's amazing, it's great, but it's a different expression. When we cut it down while it's live and we freeze it and then we wash it and we take all those trichomes off and we collect them and then we dry them and then we press them, that expression is I mean, it's wild. It's absolutely so wild. I mean, I open jars and they just make your eyes roll back. You can't believe what you're smelling, and the flavor is so good. And then the high is like totally different, right? And I tell you, you don't have to get higher. That's your choice.
Yeah.
Right? Just do a tiny dab.
Smaller quantity, yeah.
Tiny dab. And I mean, it's I feel like it's a real game changer. It's an amazing expression of the plant.
Very cool.
So yeah, they're talking about the e-rig in the chat. Talking about dabs. We get everybody hyped up with the dabs. Even Miss Growing guys like, I want a bomb and I still haven't used it. Where's my That's what's up.
Yeah. I'm
So,
still a flower girl. But as far as the terps go, and you're talking about the smell and that, when you're like week 8 of flower, and a friend of mine, she was with me the other night. She's just like, I just don't like the smell. I said, I didn't before I grew.
Yeah.
But once I began growing, and a couple of weeks in, when some of them will get just a little, a bright smell on the branch or the stem. You can rub it just a little bit. And you're like, whoo, I can smell that already. And then as it progresses, and then when you're into flower, like it's so alive. It just the smell of it. It's fresh and it's full of different terps and scents that you can pick up on, and you're just like, this smells nothing like the stank weed, like somebody driving by in a car. You walk up to them next door at a store, and like you're like, whoo, yeah, look, that reek smell. But I mean, nothing wrong with it. Each their own. But when you're growing and you get to smell that for the first time, you're just like, oh my goodness. And you keep wanting to smell more of it and just keep rubbing your fingers on it. But yeah, devastating when it happens.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, growing is such a rewarding experience. Of course, I mean, if you get good at it, the thing about it, with growing at home is you really have the opportunity to grow a plant better than anything you can buy, right? I mean, it's going to take some time to become a good grower, but you have that option. It's not like, making wine from a wine kit or making beer from a beer kit. I mean, that's all shit. It's not worth it. It's sure it's okay, but it's not worth it. Good luck making, highballs and stuff. I mean, that's pretty complicated to do at home. But with a plant, I mean, you have the seed, you have the genetics. All you have to do is give it the right environment for it to fully express its potential. And we can all do that, right? Whether it's indoor, outdoor, hydro, or soil, doesn't matter. We learn how to do that. And you can really end up as a home grower with the best cannabis you've ever smoked. It's quite amazing. And then, I mean, here's another thing I like to talk about, just to let home growers know. You really have to be careful with light exposure. Light exposure can really mess you up, or it can be your friend. We know light exposure in the morning is very healthy for us. If you look into circadian rhythm, and what I found when I first started growing is that because Canada, where we live, we get some pretty dark winter months, and I would notice that I was getting some seasonal depression in kind of that November, December period until I started growing. And once I started growing, I noticed that because I would go into my garden during the day, I was getting a lot more light into my body, and that light was triggering all these positives for me. And I had a lot of positive experiences from that. But at some point, I switched my lights so they would go on later and go on at night, right? And be off during the day. Yeah, right. And then so what I started doing is I'd get my kids to bed at like 8 o'clock or whatever. I do my chores around the house, and I'd go into the garden at 10 o'clock at night, and I would garden from like 10 to 12. And it was a huge mistake. Eventually I started having health issues. I couldn't sleep at night. My cannabis use went through the roof because I was really trying to cope with just all these health issues that arose. And at one point, it wasn't till, MRIs and multiple doctor visits that I thought, I wonder if it's something to do with the light. Of getting light too close to bed. So I dug into some circadian rhythm investigations and just how light affects us. And I switched my protocols from when I get exposed myself to light. And as soon as I changed not seeing light anytime from 8 o'clock onwards, within 4 hours of bed, all my symptoms went away. I went right back within 2 weeks. I was 100% healthy again.
That's wild. Yeah.
So there's crazy. A lot of growers out there that they work all day. They don't have a chance to get into their garden at night. You get home, you see your family, you do your kids, you do your chores, you do all that stuff. And then you go into your garden and you're essentially you're blasting yourself with this artificial sunlight, and you're telling your body, let's go, it's time to get up and go. And it changes. Instead of producing melatonin and do all these things that's supposed to be happening at the end of the day, you're causing a spike in the other stuff, I forget what it's called, but it's the hormone that makes you get up and go. So I know a lot of growers, and I've helped a lot of growers just through this conversation, where same thing, they say they can't sleep. So they smoke their brains out before bed because they say they can only sleep 4 hours a night. I'm like, well, do you go into your garden before bed? And they're like, yeah, every night. I'm like, you might want to rethink that.
So is it only a certain part of the spectrum, or is it all of it?
It's everything. I mean, what they know about light is that in an ideal situation, for everyone, once you get to about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock p.m., right, kind of that 4 hours before bed, it's intensity, it's spectrum, and it's angle. So if you have any blue light on the spectrum or full spectrum that's eye level and above, that's going to be really damaging to your circadian rhythm. If it's red spectrum and it's below, like a fire would be, and the angle's coming up, it's depending if it's coming up at this angle, it's certain things in your eyes, and if it's coming down from this angle, it hits other things in your eyes, and these activate different hormones, right? So it's just amazing how light affects us. And then also, of course, it is spectrum and it is angle. But for growers, it's literally, we have the sun hung in our tents. Right?
Oh, yeah. Spectrum, yeah.
It's just like we're not supposed to be giving ourselves exposure to bright light before bed. Even you look at all the advice, don't look at your phone before bed. Don't watch TV before bed. Computer screens and phones have these night mode that go to orange, right? These were all the things that made me initially look at and trigger me to think, oh, maybe it's the light that I'm exposing myself to. I'm like, if the phone is supposed to be bad for me before bed, what's a 600 watt full spectrum LED 2 feet above my head doing to me? And I mean, super damaging.
Yeah, because I'm a firm believer on the first thing you need to do once you're up and awake is to get sunlight into your eyes. Before you get your phone, before you walk around, before you turn the TV, whatever you do. And open your windows or step outside and get sunlight directly into your eyes. So,
Yeah, there's some great podcasts out there. Huberman has.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
He had some really good circadian rhythm ones, and then you can kind of branch off from there. But just like light can be extremely hazardous for us at certain times of the day, like you're saying in the morning, you can set, if you get up in the morning and you can expose yourself to enough lumens in the morning, you'll set right there and then when you're going to sleep and how well your sleep's going to be at night. So like now myself, in the mornings, I will get up, and the first thing I do is I'll paint for, I do these canvas paints. They're paint by numbers, and I really enjoy them. But I have a grow light right beside me, and I turn it on and I sit by my grow light that's like kind of into my face and lighting up the canvas. I mean, it's just been a lot of health benefits from having bright light exposure right in the morning.
The serotonin, you got your vitamin D. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, definitely.
There's even an adrenal cocktail that you can drink at 10 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's supposed to help reset your adrenals too, that work with your circadian. If you just Google adrenal cocktail.
Cool.
You'll be able to find it. Yeah. So awesome. Well, we kind of just went all over the place tonight.
Hell yeah.
I love that, actually. I bet there's a lot of people that their light or their sleep is deeply affected by their grow light. So
absolutely. A lot of people keep their one tent in their bedroom.
Yeah.
And so it's just so, and because it's such a seducing plant, it's such a seductive plant. I just absolutely fall in love with plants, and when I'm growing them, that it's so nice to just see them whenever you can see them and do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and You,
Yeah.
you just get into your tent when you're not supposed to. Often new growers are in there too much, right? You know,
Mhm.
you need to just chill and give your plants space. But yeah, no, it's if your grow is in your room, um, or you're going in there, you really got to consider, you know, that light exposure. And another nice way to do it, you know, for people that can only work on their plants, at the end of the day, it's not that you can't go in there and do it, but turn your lights off and just take it in a lamp with you, or
Yeah.
you know, your plants don't care if they miss 30 minutes of light.
Right.
That's not going to affect them at all, and you can just go in there with a lamp. Or what I did in the end was I totally changed my light cycle, and then when I would work on them, if it was late, I would just use a green light, you know, one of those
Mhm.
green headlamps.
Right.
And they didn't mind having green exposure. It's apparently the spectrum of the moon is a very
Mhm.
high green, and it doesn't affect their wake and sleep period. So I did that for it was very common.
Mhm.
Do you use any like type of IPMs or stuff like that? Sprays?
What do I use for sprays?
Yeah, like do you use any IPM sprays or anything like that?
Um, you know,
Since
not
you're
much.
in the DWC.
Really not much. There was some. I believe it was a natural. Maybe it was Lost Coast, or I'd have to forget, but it was a 100% natural product.
Mhm.
Because I don't want to dress up like like I'm on Breaking Bad to go spray my plants. I mean, I'm not interested in doing that exposure to me or my plants or
Yeah.
anyone, right? I don't like poison in my life.
Yeah.
So I would just use this natural spray, and it was after I got thrips. You know, just really like maybe once or twice in my grow in veg, and that's it,
Mhm.
and that was enough. To, you know, I never had any issue of bugs in there, right? So that was usually enough to do it. The bigger problem I experienced eventually, and it was a funny thing because as a new grower, I would always say, people say, well, how do you manage your PM in
Mhm.
your tent? And I would say, oh, I don't have any. I don't get it, and I'd be quite proud of myself. And they just kind of roll their eyes, and they're like, yeah, well, we'll just wait, give it a couple of years. And sure enough, it was like by 4 years of growing straight, eventually, you know, you start getting powdery mildew, and there's just nothing you can do about it. It just catches you eventually.
Mhm.
And then I found that was more challenging. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've used the Lost Coast quite a bit. Actually, I like theirs.
Hmm.
Some people
Yeah.
don't like it towards the end because it's an oil based. If
Right.
it's, you know, if you're deep into flower, but or they use, I can't say what the other one is now. It uses an enzyme that's actually produced by the plant in defense mechanism. It's
Oh.
a type of bacteria. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. That one
Hmm.
stinks though.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely more considerations, right? Once we get into
Mhm.
flower, I mean,
Yeah.
ideally, um, yeah, I'm really hoping that everything's gone well, and then by the time you're into
Mhm.
that, you know, past the second week of flower, you don't have to spray, and
Right.
and you just make it.
I used it right
Yeah,
up
it's
until
pretty.
like the last couple of weeks, so it didn't bother me. But
Hmm.
the Lost Coast one, yeah,
The Lost Coast,
isn't plant
yeah.
therapy. Yeah.
Use Lost Coast, Dr. Zymes, and then this new one that just came out, Hydro Punch, and it's just to be safe, especially because I'm out on the road,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of hard for me just to just get stripped naked just to go hang out with the ladies. It just kind of seems wrong. It's like seems like a perv if I'm just hanging out naked over here with the ladies, or it start putting a whole nother set of clothes just so I could be able to like, what's up, girls? It's been a long day. I want to come hang out with you. So it's like sometimes I just go in there, like, and I'll make sure I at least take off if I'm muddy or whatever, and but yeah, I was like, I think I would go up to like three or fourth week after flipping. Once I start seeing like more of the pistol hairs, and just I would stop. and as long as everything is nice and healthy, I'll just supply more air.
Yeah.
Because I think that was my biggest thing, not having enough air or like fresh air circulating.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, fresh air exchange, if you're not using CO2, right, you got to replace that air constantly. So you actually have CO2 for the plant. That's the big thing for me when it comes to defols. I'm a heavy defoliation person. I strip my plants aggressively at certain times. Sometimes it's the nodes, sometimes it's the fan leaves. But that's it. Is like, I have a saying. It's if you don't have light on site, right? You're going to have larvae. That's it. So if you have if you have a canopy or a plant that there's no light penetration past the first 6 inches of the top or whatever it is, and the rest is dark. That's not good bud.
Yeah.
I mean, you're growing larvae. You're growing a whole pile of larvae, and I don't care how many pounds you come out with. It's not quads, So for me, I have a very specific technique on how I grow. I mean, it's not special, it's common, but I scrog everything, and I bring my plants up and I lollipop, and then I defoliate 2 to 3 times through, 4 times probably total through veg and flower. And then again, it's to give lots of light, so every bud site has light penetration on it. And it also has air movement, so we can have air movement going all the way through. So we don't just have big pockets of plant material that doesn't circulate and doesn't get light, just lives in the dark and grows larvae.
Right.
Definitely.
Or just uses that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of information for for growers that's already put in their time and want to discover a different method, or a lot of information for new growers. And definitely blessed to have a member like yourself that's willing to spread that education.
Oh, I mean, thanks. I mean, I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk. I love, I could sit and talk about growing all day, right? I mean, that's what we do. We're always putting content on our YouTube and our socials, just on what we're doing and how we're doing it. And I get every day I'm helping a grower through messages or emails saying, I have an issue or I have questions. What do I buy? What do I do? So we're really interactive as a company. We're a very small company. It's just myself and my partner. And we both have jobs. And this is just it'd be great to have a company that is the company that we work for. But that's not the reality right now, right? It's just a very small. Yeah, not yet. So it's a very, very small. But we feel like we have a good product, and we really do engage our customers on a level that I think a lot of other companies don't.
Very nice. Very good. That's an awesome way to end the night here, but
hell yeah.